Alaska, the beast of Port Chatham. 1. The land that does not forgive. Alaska is unlike any other place in America. It is a vast, frozen cathedral of silence where nature doesn't need to threaten humans, it simply exists, and its existence is enough to kill you. Here, the forests are so thick the sun never touches the mossy floor. The mountains are cloaked in eternal ice, the fog never truly lifts, and the ocean is so cold it can stop a man's heart in minutes. In Alaska, you learn to respect the land. Those who don't, usually don't come back. But there is one place that even the most hardened Alaskans avoid mentioning. A place where the map says there is a town, but the land says there is only a grave. Port Chatham. 2. The Vanishing Village. Nestled in the Kenai Peninsula, Port Chatham was once a thriving, albeit isolated, fishing village. In the early 20th century, it was home to dozens of families who lived off the bounty of the sea and the meat of the forest. It was a hard life, but a peaceful one. Then, they started disappearing. It wasn't all at once. It was a slow, agonizing erosion of a community. First, a hunter failed to return from a routine trip. Then, a child vanished while playing on the shoreline. When a search party finally found a local man in the woods, the town's peace died forever. His body wasn't just dead, it was mutilated. His bones were twisted and snapped like dry kindling, as if something massive had wrung his body out like a wet rag with its bare hands. The villagers began to whisper a name they had heard from the elders, Nantinaq. 3. Nantinaq, the hairy men of the north. According to the legends of the native Alutiiq people, the Nantinaq is not a beast, nor is it a man. It stands over 8 feet tall, covered in thick, matted gray-white fur that blends perfectly with the Alaskan mist. It reeks of rotting meat and wet fur. But it isn't just an animal, it has a cruel, calculated habit of kidnapping humans and bending them. The elders say the Nantinaq only appears when humans push too far into the forest's ancient heart. Port Chatham, with its saws and its nets, had crossed the line. 4. Deaths beyond explanation. In 1921, the horror escalated. A logger was found hanging from the high branches of a hemlock tree. His skull had been crushed by a single, massive blow. There were no ropes, no ladders, and no footprints leading to the tree. Later that year, another body washed up near the docks. There were no bite marks, no knife wounds, just a ribcage that had been collapsed inward, as if the men had been hugged with impossible, bone-shattering force. The investigators looked for tracks. What they found were footprints. Too large to be human. Too upright to be a bear. 5. The final night at Port Chatham. As the winter of 1922 approached, the survivors lived in a state of siege. They told stories of heavy, bipedal footsteps circling their cabins at night. The steps weren't hurried. They weren't hiding. The creature moved with the confidence of a predator that knows its prey has nowhere to run. One witness claimed to see a towering white shadow standing at the edge of the tree line, motionless, its head tilting slowly as it watched the houses. Then came the final night. A cabin on the outskirts was torn apart, not jimmied open, but breached. The heavy timber door was found splintered 10 feet inside the room. The next morning, there was only blood and broken wood. No bodies. No survivors. 6. The Great Exodus. By the end of 1922, the people of Port Chatham had reached their breaking point. They didn't pack their heirlooms. They didn't sell their land. They simply boarded the first boats and left. They abandoned their homes with dinner still on the tables and clothes still in the drawers. The government officially labeled it a migration due to harsh living conditions. But that didn't explain the haste. It didn't explain why, for 100 years, not a single family ever returned to claim their property. They knew that something was still there, waiting in the silence of the docks. 7. Those who dared return. For decades, Port Chatham remained a ghost town. Occasional hunters or explorers would attempt to camp there, drawn by the mystery. None stayed long. Explorers reported the sensation of heavy breathing right behind their necks, even when standing in an open field. Others found massive footprints appearing around their tents overnight, despite hearing nothing. At least 2 documented cases of missing persons have occurred in the area since the 1950s. They left no trails. No gear. Just gone. 8. Modern witnesses. The legend isn't a relic of the past. In 2009, a group of seasoned hunters near the ruins of the old cannery reported seeing a creature. It stood over 9 feet tall, its fur a dirty white, standing perfectly upright. It didn't snarl. It didn't charge. It just stared. When they raised their rifles, the creature stepped back into the fog and vanished as if it were made of smoke. When the hunters checked the spot, they found tracks pressed 12 inches deep into the frozen crust of the snow. 9. Alaska needs no myths. Outsiders like to call the Nantinaq the Bigfoot of Alaska. The locals don't use that name. To them, Bigfoot is a campfire story from the Pacific Northwest. The Nantinaq is a reality of the Alaskan wilderness. They have a saying in the North, there are places where you simply do not belong after dark. Port Chatham is at the top of that list. 10. The warning. If you ever find yourself lost in the Alaskan bush, and the air suddenly turns still, if you feel a gaze so heavy it makes your skin crawl, do not call out. Do not run. And whatever you do, do not follow the footprints leading deeper into the trees. Because in Port Chatham, the people didn't just leave. They were evicted by something that was there long before them, and something that will be there long after we are gone.